To Ayekwafo, all the farmers, happy Farmers Day to you. For those in animal husbandry and those, planting the food that we all consume. Of course, we're talking about the import, bill or import restrictions bill. We need to do better as a country on that front. But for now, we're going to assess what we do as farming in this country in terms of sustaining ourselves. If anything were to happen elsewhere, like we've seen poignantly happen between Russia and Ukraine, and how some things affected many places across the world in respect of grain, cereal, among others. Should some of those things happen, the question is, would Ghana be self-sufficient in terms of food production? We contemplate that. We also look at these decades we've had of a national farmer. I recall some time back putting out something from the Daily Graphic, a very old edition of the Daily Graphic, with the sort of gifts that were given to the national best farmer many decades ago. Wellington boots, machetes, and a few things. It was a big deal back then. Today, things have changed. Sometimes they get houses, equipment, among other things. But are we still doing enough for the Ghanaian farmer? Just this morning, Osman called me from the Asankragwa area, talking about the despoliation, or despoliation if you like, of galamsey and how it's impacting the environment, and how now, if you wanted something like yam, you would be buying it at higher prices than even in Accra and Kumasi. And this is supposed to be a farming community. So how much have we done for our farming community? And even as we talk about that, we also talk about our fisheries. They are all in tandem. They work hand in glove. Our guest this morning, to elaborate on all of these matters, we have Anthony Morrison. He is CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness. We also have Evans Tremens, our Executive Director, Agri-Wealth Ghana. He does a lot of farming. He's into cassava as well. I don't know whether he's still on that. And Bismarck Norte, PRO, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. We shall also get to join the conversation John Dumelo, who also is a farmer. One of his major products, ginger paste. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. You will have to unmute, gentlemen, so at least those of you on board. Is that Morrison?
Thank you very much. Yes. Benjamin, nice dress over there.
Thank you very much. All right.
So a very good morning to all wonderful farmers in Ghana and those in the value chain. From the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, we wish you a very wonderful day. And it is our promise that the Chamber of Agribusiness will work with our partners like the PFAC, GAU, and Farmers Award winners to make sure that we continue to address their concern and to also push government to listen to their challenges.
Hold for me. Let me bring in Evans Tremens. Can you hear me, Mr. Tremens? If you're with me, please unmute so I can just be sure that I have you on board as of this time. Evans Tremens, Executive Director, Agri-Wealth Ghana. Can you hear me, sir? Hello, Evans? Okay, I think we're struggling with a connection to Evans Tremens. I will try to work it to get him on board, even as we get our other guests as well. Anthony Morrison, year in, year out, I do this when I speak to farmers, those in the value chain. I'd like to find out from you today, as we celebrate farmers, what is the tale of the tape? Where would you situate the state of the Ghanaian farmer today? And I'm not just restricting it to those planting food items. I'm extending it to animal husbandry, and I'm extending it to fish productivity in our waters. I'm also extending it over time. We'll get into the conversation of the import restrictions bill and whether we are even anywhere close. But let's start from the state of the Ghanaian farmer today. What picture do you have in your mind?
Well, Ben, the current 2024 budget explains everything. If you take the budget step by step, you understand the current state of our food and agriculture. After 4 years of operating an intensive sloganeering PFJ. A year that we have pushed all the boundaries for planting for food and jobs. One district, one factory, one village, one dam. Our agriculture sector still lags behind. If you look at the cadet score of the African Union, you realize that there is still a lot to be done. There is still malnourishment, stunting, challenges in nutrition across board. Farmers are having challenges with bad roads after they have struggled to acquire input to produce. Farmers are having problems with diseases. Farmers are having problems with huge post-harvest losses. And it is a year that farmers have struggled across board. A year that farmers did not even get any input support, not even a grain of support from government. It is a year that the industry has been bereaved with a lot of disasters, the flooding in the north, aside the regular annual Bagri Dam spillage, a year that all the major rice production areas, Volta, Eastern, Oti, have all had to come under major disaster and destruction worth millions of dollars. So it is a year that we quickly want to push behind us. A year that government introduced a very strange tax at the harbor on inputs. A year that industry have consistently called on government to remove these taxes. And the impact of these taxes is still with us, and it will continue with us because of its negative impact it brought into the industry. So we have come under serious challenges in terms of our food production, in terms of our agri-food systems, in terms of public funding for agriculture and the value chain, in terms of supporting poultry farmers whose farms have come under serious virus attack and whose farms have now either been completely closed or more than 70% downsized. A time that the fisheries industry is completely almost on its knees. So there is absolutely nothing for us to write home about. It took the Ministry of Finance one solid year to remove these taxes that we started fighting for the previous year in December. Fast forward in February, we held press conferences, we wrote letters upon letters, we did a lot of advocacy for the government to remove these taxes. And Benjamin, to top it up all, as an icing on the cake, the role and responsibility of every government is to feed its citizens. And if its citizens are struggling and getting challenges along the line, and despite all that, they are able to use whatever is available to them to produce food, government will still charge them 5% after tax. And for me, this is nothing but an unstrategic tax, a tax that is actually not listening to the concern of those who produces Ghana's food.
Right. Just hold for me there. Let me bring in Evans Tremensa as well. He joins us via phone. Evans, you've heard your colleague, Anthony Morrison, on the other end, lamenting the woes of the agri-sector. He talks about taxes. He's spoken about fisheries. He says it's on its knees. He's spoken about planting for food and jobs as well. And interestingly, we've put up a few questions out there today. Interesting reactions coming from some of you on social media. But what is the state of the Ghanaian farmer and agriculture generally in Ghana from where you sit, Evans?
Hi, Ben. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Sorry that I couldn't join on video. I'm on my way to the Farmers Day. I'm actually collecting the best farmer for cassava.
Oh, congratulations. Yes. Best farmer for cassava.
Yes.
Is it regional? Is it national?
No, this municipal.
Municipal?
Municipal best cassava farmer, yeah.
Wow. Which municipality is this?
That's Mampong, in the area, Ashanti region. Mampong.
Well, congratulations. We celebrate you on this grand feat.
Thank you very much.
What are your production levels?
Right now, I am doing 500 acre cassava. I intercrop it with maize, which I did about 400 acres, where I will be harvesting the maize by 2 weeks time. I did a little bit of cowpea. I have some few goats. We are pushing. We are pushing.
Just because you started, before we get to the substantive question, you remember one of the last times we had a conversation, you were talking about the cost of, getting into agriculture. You already had been there. You were hoping to expand. You couldn't because of the cost of diesel, because of the cost of labor, because of the cost of equipment and all of that. Have you been able to increase production over this period?
No, I've not been able to increase. I've actually reduced my production level because I was actually hoping to do about 7 acre cassava farm this year. I couldn't do it, so I maintained the 500.
Okay.
However, because of storage facility issues, I needed to intercrop it with maize. But generally, it has been very tough this year. A lot of issues here and there. Fuel prices went so high that we couldn't even access some mechanical issues. When our tractor broke down, it took us almost about 2 months to be able to fix it. And then fertilizer also skyrocketed. Using fertilizer for maize is something. You have to add about 2 MPK, for each acre, and then urea as well. So the cost of production for farmers has really, really, really been very tough, and farmers are really struggling to really pull through. However, because of our resilience and the fact that we want to feed Ghana, we want to help our young people also to see that in spite of whatever we are going through, we still have to do something to keep our nation going. We can't say that because we are going through all these tough seasons and tough times financially, in terms of input costs and all that, we don't want to farm. We have to pull ourselves through and make it happen. So it's been tough. It's been seriously struggling through and getting it done. We hope that in the coming season, things will go down, and then we'll be able to maximize and leverage on what we are doing. But generally, it's been very, very rough this season and very tough. But we keep pushing.
You say that it's been very rough. You mentioned fuel, the cost of fuel, diesel to power your equipment. You mentioned fertilizer and all of that. We've had planting for food and jobs. We've had all the programs that have been made mention of by this administration. How have they helped you within this period?
The planting for food and jobs, actually, I didn't subscribe to it last season, but I hope that this season I'll be able to do that. The challenging thing that I had was that I never even received any farm extension officer throughout the season until recent time that they visited my farm and told me that looking at the work I've done and my application and stuff like that, they didn't know that I was doing such a work on ground. So they came to assess my work and decided that I won the best cassava farmer in the season we are in. But let me say that the planting for food and job, I've followed their discussion and I've met some of the directors at the ministry. We had some conversations, and I think that's a very laudable vision and idea, to push our food security level up. However, the investment that must go in, is big. But if we're able to do that, I'm sure that we can really push our food security level up. But if we don't do that, and we do politics with it, and a lot of talk and optics and speeches and conferences and stuff like that, we won't go anywhere. we have to actually really be serious and get on the ground. And if you say we have that vision, the laudable vision is something that is beautiful. I've read what Ahmed, the director, he said they want to do between 5 acres and 10 acres and a half, you know, and they were even trying to co-opt us to be able to bring a lot of youth, you know, onto it. But it's one thing talking about it and another thing actually doing it. And when it comes to the doing, that is where the real challenge is. And I really trust that this time around, it will not only be only seeing the pictures and videos on television, but we are actually getting the young people inside to really do the work and also having real data to speak to the issue, you know. And apart from that, the public investment in the area too will not be, excuse me to use my word, will not go into wrong hands, you know, but really get to the people who are actually doing the work. That's all we are asking for. If we can get public investment, get more funding into the planting for food and jobs phase 2, and get the people who are doing it to get the funding and the support, I am very sure that we can make a headway. But
all right.
You know, normally you do it and then people are not even farming. People have not even stepped on the farm before. Are the people, you know, managing it? There are people who are controlling the money. There are people who are controlling the input. And by the time we realize it has fallen into different hands, and the actual workers are not getting it. So we are all pleading that this time we want to see that the doers are the one having all the access to the input and all the supplies and everything.
Just hold for me briefly. Let me bring in Anthony Morrison, and there are at least one or two other guests that will rope into this conversation as it goes on. You can also feel free to share with us via the live stream what your thinking is about the state of agriculture in Ghana, and maybe even share your thoughts on the proposed restrictions on imports. But Morrison, one component I know that farmers have struggled with. You listen to Evans Tremensa. He talks about the fact that he farms 500 acres of cassava. He's maintained that. He was hoping to upscale to about 700. This has been about a year plus. We've been talking about it. He's not been able to do it on the back of some of these challenges. 400 acres of maize and then some cowpea as well. What do you farm, Morrison? And how difficult is it for you as a farmer to secure something like a loan to actually boost production?
I sympathize with my very good brother, Evans. Let me be quick to add that what is surviving this country is our traditional crops, the roots and tubers. In most cases, you do not need fertilizer or any form of chemical to produce some of these roots and tubers. The plantains, the cassavas, the potatoes, the traditional potatoes, the yams, and what have you. So these are the areas that survive in this country. So a lot more Ghanaians are also eating more of the traditional. On my side, I do maize, rice, cashew, and honey. Now,
what expanse of land do you operate on? Give us an idea.
So currently, I'm doing
1,200 acres
for maize. I'm doing just slightly above 210 acres for rice. I have about 200 cashew acreage of cashew, and I outsource gallons of honey across the country, and I package the cashew and also the honey. I used to package the rice, but the cost of the value chain activities is so deep that I have to outsource the paddy to a factory. I mean, sell off the paddy to a factory to do the packaging, the processing, and the packaging itself. So, so it makes it very difficult to be competitive on the market, especially those who are doing quite large production in terms of the rice. Now, if you look at the past 2 years, the rate at which the forex has been having challenges and the cost of imported inputs, the hybrid seeds, the prices have jumped more than 36 to 40%. So if you want to really be in the position to increase your production, then the market must adequately also respond to that. If you understand the value chain properly, you realize that when the poultry sector is doing well, or the grains and cereal sectors are doing well, we have positive impact on the poultry sector, on the piggery sector, and also on the aquaculture fishery sector. So when the grains and cereals are having challenges, then of course you expect also the poultry sector, aquaculture, fisheries, and piggery to also have challenges because they go together. If you take the feed component of poultry, 60% or to 70% of the feed additives or the composition is maize. Then you have soya. Then you have fish meal. Then you have soya cake. Then you now go for the other additives of
Hello, Anthony.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So now you can have the other additives of lysine, methionine, potassiums, other vitamins, the other vaccines. So we import almost 99% of all the additives. Okay, we do not produce any of them here in Ghana. From the medication, which we call the vaccines, the other additives are all imported. So when the forex is misbehaving, you have the farmers facing the brunt of the cost of the forex. And the cost of production also has become so high because don't forget, government has increased electricity, government has increased water. So it comes at the cost of operating. And fuel, diesel, in cases where electricity is unavailable, the cost of fuel is so high. So the cost of production on the farmer in terms of poultry has astronomically gone up. When we say farmers are having challenges, people think that we are cooking the figures, but the figures are real. They take transport. They know how much their transportation bill have jumped from the past 2 years to now. And it keeps having effect. As for the farmer, every 4 other weeks, the variations in terms of cost of input keeps changing.
Right.
Because the farm also keeps changing. People have to import, convert the money back into dollars to go and bring the same quantity or less. So we are actually having problems in the industry. And you expect to have a listening minister, you expect to have a listening president, you expect to have a listening government to actually address. Look at the agriculture census and look at the number of people who are directly involved in agriculture, both directly and indirectly. That is well over 11 million, counting to 14 million. That is almost half of Ghana's population. In fact, over 70% of the rural economy is agriculture. So we need to begin to address our problem. No other country can feed us. We should be able to increase public funding for agriculture.
Right.
Look at the current food inflation. Okay. We are doing 49 to 51%. This is the highest in Africa. Okay. If you look at the food price cost build-up, Benjamin, if government could just come in and take some interventions, for instance, the bad roads, the aggregation, now there is another thing that I want to add. How on earth?
So briefly on that, let me bring in the next guest as well. But go ahead.
Yeah. How on earth? Another major factor in the food price cost build-up is foreigners having access directly to farm gates. So they dictate the price of our food. So they are able to purchase at a higher cost. So when you the indigene, you a Ghanaian, goes to the farmer to purchase, they want you to pay the same price as the Nigerian, as the Indian, as other countries are purchasing. Which I don't understand why we can't have a regulatory system in place to prevent that. No country allows that. Countries where we import poultry, we import maize, we import soya and rice. We do not buy from the farm gate. We buy from their national commodity company. So why can't we do the same?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Hold for me, because we've heard same in respect of soya, in respect of cowpea, I think at some point, and all of that. Some of them also used for feed, for poultry. But let me also bring into the conversation John Dumelo. He's a farmer as well. John, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Mr. Dumelo, can you hear me? You may have to unmute so you can actually hear me. So
good morning. How are you, Benjamin?
I am very well, and we're grateful that you agreed to speak to us, I admit, on such short notice, to be fair. Just walk us through, for each of those on this conversation, Evans Tremensa, who, by the way, is the Mampong Municipal Best Cassava Farmer. He has 500 acres of cassava. He's going to receive his award today. There is Anthony Morrison, who also has over 1,200 acres, I believe, of maize, 210 of rice. He has cashew, among others. Just walk us through what your acreage is, your farms. I know of ginger, I don't know of all the others. And whether you've been able to maintain, reduce, or upscale on production since the last Farmers' Day when we had a conversation.
Well, good morning to everyone listening. I think for me, the same challenges that all the farmers are sharing is what I'm also about to share. I mean, the prices have gone up astronomically, but I think what drives most of us is passion. What drives most of us is the fact that people have to eat, and the food has to come from somewhere, and the food has to come from a farmer. And we believe in Ghana, and so most of the time our passion drives us. But I think there's a limit to where the passion is going to get to one day. Like Anthony said, the prices are changing every day. Between last year and this year, yes, I've increased my acreage. I've increased the number of things I'm doing in terms of agriculture, but all because I have passion, all because I know that one day it's going to be fine, and all because I know that if we don't take charge as Ghanaians, if we don't take charge of our agricultural industry, things are going to be pretty messed up in the next few years. And so things are bad, but we are still holding on.
In terms of planting for food and jobs, Evans Tremensa, for example, will tell me that even getting extension officers to come to his area to give the necessary assistance, it's only recently that a few things happened. What support systems have you had as a farmer in respect of not just planting for food and jobs, but generally to ensure that you can have some peace, that you can produce, that you can upscale? What have you got in that regard? Fertilizers, do you get any?
Let me tell you the only support system that I've gotten. The only support system I've gotten is prayers. Prayers from myself, prayers from everybody else. And I haven't had any support. I remember when I used to do a lot of maize, and I still do a lot of maize up north, around the Wale area. And I remember, I think I shared the story once where my farm manager said, he wants to go and apply for this planting for food and jobs, fertilizer, blah, blah. And he was told point blank that, number one, it's not available. Number two, you need certain connections before you get it. And so for me, I've totally forgotten about the planting for food and jobs incentives. If people want their farms to thrive, I think people should just really forget about the planting for food and jobs incentives. Because one, it's going to be a long process to get the fertilizers. Two, even if you get it, you're going to get it in small quantities, which is okay. I mean, because, the fertilizers are probably in limited quantity and everybody has to get it. But I think for most of us, we haven't had any support whatsoever when it comes to planting for food and jobs.
How do you bankroll what you do? Yes, over time, you've built some support systems, but in terms of loans, for example, is it easy to contract a loan? I mean, now if you're contracting a loan, you're looking at a repayment of about an interest rate of about 40%. How easy is it, first of all? Are you on any, what's that terrain like for you as a farmer?
Well, I think a couple of times I've tweeted about, agric loans and stuff. And some financial institutions, do contact me. And I tell them point blank that, look, if you guys are going to ask me for my grandmother's certificate or my father's something, about, then forget it. When it comes to loans Greek loans in Ghana, it's almost impossible to get it. One, even if you get it, the interest rates are extremely high. And so for me, I don't depend on loans. I depend on reinvesting whatever I've invested. I depend on other friends who also share the same belief and the same idea as myself, who will come together and say, okay, you know what, next year I want to get into tomato production. Who are those who are interested? Let's bring our pool of funds together and let's invest in it. And then at the end of the day, we share the profit. So I don't do loans when it comes to agric because one, is cumbersome, two, the interest rates are high, and it's almost impossible to compete, because and I always keep on saying this, that look, countries that have very low interest rates, these countries are going to bring in their foreigners, their nationals, come to Ghana with very low interest rates with the money they have and get into agric. And, in few years' time, the agric sector in Ghana is going to be dominated by, non-Ghanaians.
Is it not already happening? Farmer Morrison was just talking about the Syrians, the Indians, the Lebanese, the Nigerians, and others who, in fact, can afford it. So they go to the farm gate, which should not be the case, and purchase products at a certain price. And now the farmers also, at the farm gate will want to sell it to you at that price because others are purchasing it at that price, which also hikes food prices up.
Exactly. And the farmer wants to make his money back. The farmer has planted, maybe 3 or 4 months. He's ready to sell his produce. So whoever comes, he will sell it to the person. And of course, it's about the highest bidder. No farmer wants to say, today, I can sell it at 200, but because it's a Friday, I want to sell it at 150. No, they will sell it to make maximum profit. And so if we don't take time, foreigners are going to, invade the farming industry, the agric sector, which has already happened, which is happening, which is fine. It's a level playing field, but we need to own our industry. We need to take charge of it. We need to create millionaires out of agric when it comes to Ghana. We need to. I know people think it's high risk. I know people think it's one of those sectors that, if you go inside, your money goes shit. But the passion has to keep on going. We need to stop importing our onions. We need to stop importing our tomatoes. We need to stop importing, vegetables from neighboring countries during the dry season. We need to. We are capable of doing it. And I really don't know what it is, but I really want to salute, the few farmers who are still in the game. I really want to salute farmers who are still passionate about agric, who are still going on strong despite the economic challenges. And I think one day we will have a very successful story to tell.
John, just hold for me. We'll be wrapping shortly. I want to give each one of you 2 minutes. I'll start with Evans Tremens. I want to give each one of you 2 minutes to reflect on this last bit, or less if you can. Now, you also look at the import restrictions bill that the Trade and Industry Minister, K.T. Hammond, is putting forward. When I shared my blunt thoughts with you this morning, I gave you the metrics. If you look at even our national demand of rice production, between 2017 and now, we've increased it by just about 350,000 metric tons. And even that's a bit of a fortunate rise. And you look at our demand, it has moved from around 1 million metric tons to 1.55, almost 1.6 million metric tons. We are currently producing around 800,000 metric tons. Then you also look at poultry. You would realize that since 2020, the local demand, what we've been able to produce, 58,000 metric tons, 50,000 metric tons in 2021, 60,000 metric tons in 2022. In the meantime, the consumption, 356,000 metric tons in 2020, 400,000 metric tons in 2021, 460,000 metric tons in 2022. Then, finally, what I'll leave you with, Nigeria, in trying to wean itself of rice, importation, moved from, and get this, 2010, 2.8 million metric tons to now, 2022, right before this era, 5.35 million metric tons, which means that over 12 years, they've not even been able to double their rice production. We are saying we want to axe out rice, poultry, among other things. What is your take? Do we do this gradually or do we do this abruptly? Evans Remensa, final words.
do it abruptly, what is going to happen is that you're going to suffocate a lot of people. You will cause national security issues in the country. Demand determines supply. Okay, so once the local demand is going out, it means that we need to have commensurate supply to be able to make it. And here's the case that we are not able to produce enough to meet our own demand. So therefore, we will resort to importation. And the more we are importing, the more we are making other countries richer. And we are also strengthening our own economy and making ourselves poorer. So I really think that it should be a gradual process, but there should be a firm regulatory environment and policies to be able to make sure that we get to where we are going. We need a national food production strategy. We need infrastructures at the local level, our farm areas. We need very, very strong policy, focus to be able to get our importations reduced and get our production levels increased. Now, if we're able to produce more rice, and also be able to, have a way of increasing the local taste for the rice, because I know Morrison and others are producing rice, but the question to be asking is that why is it that a lot of people are still standing the local rice and going for foreign rice?
Right.
Because number one is price and also taste. But policy can be able to handle that. And I think that we really need to have a very strong leadership to be able to do that.
Okay.
And if we are not able to do that, what we are going to do is that we are going to strengthen our economy, we are going to make other countries more prosperous,
right,
while we only depend on them. And that really is a recipe for disaster in the future for us.
Evans, thank you so much. And once more, congratulations on being the Mampong Municipality Cassava Farmer of the Year. We're proud of you. Thank you for joining the conversation. On now to Anthony Morrison, very briefly, less than 2 minutes, and then I'll conclude with John Dumelo. Anthony Morrison, I beg your pardon. Morrison, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, your turn now.
Okay, so thank you very much, Benjamin. Ben, our national importation bill for food is well over $10 billion. Look at the budgetary allocation for the agriculture sector, 700 million cedis. That is a drop in the ocean. You can't use such a budget for 2024 to begin to strategize for the agriculture sector. Secondly, Benjamin, we cannot continue to announce, ban national agriculture food strategy without any proper packed financing mechanism, any proper infrastructure. Look, when China and the US and Europe decide that they want to do something, they don't announce it to the world. They achieve it, they start achieving their target, then they come that we are doing this now, and they implement it. We just think of the idea and we rush the media to announce. Of what use when you don't have the funds to back it? So it's very critical we should begin to deepen the discussion from where we are. And Ben, look at the paragraph 324 of the budget. Ghana imported well over $300 million of pepper in this country, where we are actually looking for jobs for our teeming youth, where there are a lot of youth unemployed, where the likes of John have employed several youth on his farm and in the value chain, processing, adding value in the market. And we are still importing $300 million plus of pepper. The whole of the sub-region is only Nigeria that is doing inflation over 25%. Ghana is doing almost 51%. You see, the case of Nigeria in terms of achieving or increasing their rice bill.
This has to be your final point, Morrison. Please go ahead.
We produce quite a lot of rice in this country. But look at the post-harvest losses. Government has failed over the years to provide the right intervention for farmers to harvest their rice on time, for farmers to have a better storage facilities for their rice. So they are forced to even sell their paddies to Nigeria. Okay, so the cost of post-harvest losses on Ghana's grains and cereal industry is well over $1.7 billion annually. And we can't continue to do that.
Okay.
We need to be serious with these food systems and how we can continue to secure Ghana's food security going forward.
Anthony Morrison, that is a brilliant take you just put forward. We're grateful that you took the time to join the conversation. Farmer Dumelo, John Dumelo, you have the final bite on this. What do you make of this import situation, the restrictions, and what can we do better as a country?
I think, number one, it's excuse my French, but it's a very bogus bill that is being introduced.
Why?
Because it's just meant to empower just a few people. It's just meant to enrich a few people. It's just meant to, create millionaires out of those who are important. Look, and I share the same sentiments with, Anthony and my good friend, the best farmer in...
Evans Tremensa.
Yes. We need backward integration. What it means is, one, let's take the items one by one. Let's take rice. Let's take poultry. Let's take whatever. Fine, let's take rice. Let's not quickly announce that, we are doing import restriction bill, blah, blah, blah. We're just going to give a few licenses to people. No. Let's look at the cost of producing 1 kilo of rice as compared to the cost of producing, compared to importing 1 kilo of rice. Let's sit down. Let's get all the stakeholders. Let's get the farmers. Let's get the agronomists. Let's get the weather guys. Let's get the food science guys. Let's sit everybody down and say, you know what? Can you produce rice at this price per kilo? Yes, we can, no problem. Then you start production. Once you flood the market with Ghana rice, and besides, it's not local rice. Now, once you start flooding the market with Ghana rice at a reduced cost, people would automatically start going for it. Same taste as the imported one, same taste as everything. People would automatically start going for it. And when they start going for it, you realize that importation will reduce. Now, sitting somewhere and say you're going to pass a bill and say that, we are going to, restrict the importation. I mean, it's going to go back to the 70s Kalabule ways where, prices are going to go up, people are going to hoard items, and it's going to just enrich a lot of people and empower a lot of people, which, of course, a lot of farmers will be taken out of business. Go to Doma, for instance, days ago, and a couple of weeks ago, and most of the port farmers are shutting down. Why are they shutting down? They are shutting down because there's no help coming from anywhere. Now imagine somebody with a 500,000 capacity, poultry facility right now just doing 100,000 facility. That's wrong. Encourage him to increase it from 500,000 to 2 million. Encourage the others to also upscale their own. Prices will drop. They flood their market with the poultry products, and you realize that importation will reduce. And so I think this bill is just a bogus one to begin with, and it's not going to work at all.
Thank you, John Dumelo, for joining the conversation. Once more, we greatly appreciate it joining us on such short notice. And so those who joined the conversation, Anthony Morrison, CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness, Evans Tremensa, Executive Director, AgriWealth Ghana. He's the Mampo Municipal Best Cassava Farmer. And then Bismarck Norte, John Dumelo joining the conversation as well. Bismarck couldn't actually join the conversation. Well, so there you have it. On Farmers' Day, these are the lamentations of farmers. And if we take them in stock, we'll be able to do better as a country in terms of arriving at food sufficiency, at human security. But moving on from here, even as we gear up to take a break, when we return, two major matters we're going to be looking at. We'll take you to the election headquarters as we contemplate Saturday's event for some constituencies, orphan constituencies within the New Patriotic Party, choosing who will lead them into election 2024. And also coming up, as the Yuletide is upon us, we'll be contemplating how you can stay fit, not just in terms of exercise, but nutritionally. We have a nutritionist on board. All of that lined up on the AM show. We'll be right back.